We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi reaches Trinidad and Tobago to a rousing welcome. Prime Minister Kamla Prasad Bharati and members of her cabinet receive Prime Minister at the airport. Prime Minister addresses members of Indian community in Port of Spain, outlines plan for deeper ties with the Caribbean nation to get the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, nation's highest honor. After marathon negotiations, Donald Trump's mega, big and beautiful bill passes key U.S. House vote. Trump says the bill will make America into a rocket ship, invites all members of Senate to bill signing ceremony. IMF slams Trump's tax bill, a threat to U.S. economy. Share markets soar to record numbers following solid U.S. jobs data despite the White House's wave of tariffs. Trump speaks with his Russian counterpart Putin after U.S. pauses some weapons shipment to Ukraine, says didn't make any progress as the Kremlin insisted the Russian president would stick to his aims in the conflict. California battles biggest wildfire of the year. Hundreds ordered to evacuate as dozens of buildings are threatened. Turkey, Greece and Spain also struggling with blaze as Europe heat wave continues. And on the second leg of his five-nation visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the diaspora at the community event at Port of Spain, the capital of Trinidad and Tobago. Prime Minister Modi praised the diaspora, saying that he feels that we are part of one family.
It is a matter of immense pride and joy for me to be with all of you this evening. I thank Prime Minister Kamla ji for her wonderful hospitality and kind words. I arrived a short while ago in this beautiful land of hummingbirds. And my very first engagement is with the Indian community here. It feels completely natural. After all, we are part of one family.
Also, Prime Minister Modi further termed the Indian community of Trinidad and Tobago as not migrants, but messengers of a timeless civilization.
They face hardships with hope. They meet problems with persistence. They left the Ganga and Yamuna behind, but carried the Ramayana in their hearts. They left their soil, but not their soul. They were not just migrants. They were messengers of a timeless civilization.
Also, Prime Minister Modi said that he brought something here with a similar sense of devotion, and that is a replica of Ram Temple and also water from Saryu River.
I'm sure you all welcome the return of Ram Lala to Ayodhya after 500 years with great joy. We remember you had sent holy water and silas for building the Ram Mandir in Ayodhya. I have also brought something here with a similar sense of devotion. It is my honor to bring a replica of Ram Mandir and some water. And water from the river Saryu in Ayodhya.
Prime Minister Modi also said that India has launched initiatives to map the cities from where ancestors migrated, and regular Girmitia conferences will be held.
We are actively working on creating a comprehensive database of the Girmitia community, documenting the villages and cities in India from which their ancestors migrated. Identifying the places where they have settled, studying and preserving the legacy of the Girmitia ancestors, and working to organize World Girmitia conferences regularly. This will support the deep and historic ties with our brothers and sisters in Trinidad and Tobago as well.
Prime Minister Modi announced that OCI cards will be extended to the 6th generation of Girmitia people in Trinidad and Tobago.
I am happy to announce that OCI cards will now be given to the 6th generation of the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago. You are not just connected by blood or surname. You are connected by belonging. India looks out to you. India welcomes you. And India embraces you.
The Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Prasar Bharati, in her address at the community event, praised the role of Prime Minister Modi and termed Prime Minister Modi as a transformational force.
We honor, revere cultural and familial bonds between our people. These bonds transcend time and distance, uniting us in a shared history and a shared future. Prime Minister Modi, you are a transformational force who has refined governance of India and positioned your country as a prominent and dominant global power.
While addressing the event, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Prasar Bharati, announced to honor Prime Minister Modi with the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, nation's highest honor.
The ties that bind our two nations are truly unbreakable. Under your leadership, India has extended its hand to the world, but never more so through your compassion, through your benevolence, with the vaccines initiative 4 years ago, when COVID-19 pandemic brought the world to its knees, while some other countries were hoarding medical supplies, you, sir, you ensured that vaccines and supplies reach even the smallest nations, including Trinidad and Tobago. Through your benevolence, you brought hope and calm where there was fear. I say again, this was more than diplomacy. This was an act of kinship. This was an act of shared humanity. This was an act of love. And this is one of the many reasons we are deeply proud to bestow upon you, Excellency, the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.
Earlier, Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Port of Spain on a state visit to the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. In a special gesture, Prime Minister was received by Prasar Bharati, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, along with members of a cabinet and several other dignitaries. 38 ministers and 4 lawmakers were present at the airport to receive Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister was accorded a ceremonial guard of honor and welcomed with special cultural performances. It is his first visit to the country as the Prime Minister and the first bilateral visit at the prime ministerial level since 1999. In his departure statement, the Prime Minister had said that this visit will provide an opportunity to rejuvenate the special bonds of ancestry and kinship that unite the peoples of these two countries. The Prime Minister will hold talks with President Christine Carla Kangaloo and Prime Minister Prasar Bharati. He is also expected to address a joint session of Trinidad and Tobago's Parliament. Prime Minister Modi was welcomed by the Indian diaspora at his hotel. People lined up to welcome him. Patriotic slogans reverberated as the Prime Minister interacted with the diaspora. And in the next report, Akshay Dongre traces the journey of the Indian diaspora to Trinidad and Tobago. Take a look.
On the 30th of May 1845, the Fatal Razak arrived in Trinidad carrying 225 Indian indentured laborers, or girmitiyas, the dawn of a transformative chapter in the twin island nation's history. 1845, the Fatal Razak arrives in Trinidad and Tobago with 225 Indians. 1845 to 1917, 143,939 indentured laborers landed in Trinidad and Tobago. 1902, over half of sugarcane farming managed by Indians. 1962, diplomatic ties formalized post-independence. 2025, Indian Trinidadians and Tobagonians form 42% of the population. Over 180 years, the Indian diaspora preserved its culture, built thriving communities, and now stands proudly at the nation's helm, with Indian origin Prasar Bharati as Prime Minister of the nation. Clearly, though the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago had a hard landing on the nation's shores, it has weathered many a storm to emerge at the top of its society.
Primarily, our forefathers came from Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, and they brought with them a lot of folk traditions, including their Ramcharitamanas, which is still hugely popular here in Trinidad and Tobago. Our forefathers were simple but profound persons. They were simple in the skills that they came with, but they were very profound in the value system that they came with.
Earlier this year, Prime Minister Modi, speaking in Mauritius on the girmitiyas or indentured laborers, recounted the hardships of the community and how, despite the difficulties, the girmitiyas kept their culture alive.
आपको जानकर खुशी होगी कि भारत सरकार गिरमिटिया साथियों का एक डेटाबेस बनाने पर काम कर रहा है। मॉरिशस और गिरमिटिया कम्युनिटी से जुड़े अन्य देशों के साथ मिलकर भारत इंडेंचर्ड लेबर रूट्स अंकित करने पर भी काम करेगा।
This year, the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago is celebrating 180 years of the first indentured laborers landing in the nation.
Well, geographically, India and Trinidad and Tobago are thousands of miles apart. Culturally, they're as close as two countries can be together. And that is due to the living bridge of Indian diaspora that resides here, that has built this country and now comprise about 40% of the total population of this Caribbean country. And this unprecedented and historic visit by Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to bring the two countries even closer together, economically, culturally, and in several other aspects of society. And this is also going to write a new chapter in the ties between the two beautiful nations. With camera person Modoiki, Akshay Dongre, DD India.
And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. US-backed 60-day ceasefire plan proposes phased hostage swaps, Israeli withdrawals and talks toward permanent Gaza truce. Emergency crews respond to severe flooding and landslides in Ecuador's Amazon region.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. And moving on, US President Donald Trump's sweeping tax cut and spending package cleared its final congressional hurdle on Thursday as the Republican-led House of Representatives narrowly passed the bill, paving the way for the president to sign it into law. A small group of Republican opponents finally fell into line after Speaker Mike Johnson worked through the night to corral dissenters in the House of Representatives behind the One Big Beautiful Bill. Well, the bill, which passed by a slim 218 to 214 margin, marks a major legislative win for Trump.
Is adopted.
While US President Trump hailed the passage of his flagship tax and spending bill by Congress, Trump said that he will sign the big beautiful bill during a ceremony set for 5 p.m. local time on July 4th at the White House.
So we're signing at about 5 o'clock, and at about 5 o'clock we're going to have B-2s and F-22s and F-35s flying right over the White House. And the Speaker and I and John Thune, we're all there together with most Republican senators and congressmen and women, and it's going to be a great day. So we'll be signing with those beautiful planes flying right over our heads.
Speaking to reporters as he headed for a rally in Iowa to kick off America's 250th birthday celebrations, the president called the spending package the biggest bill of its kind ever signed. He further said the bill would boost the U.S. economy like a rocket ship.
And we're sort of celebrating like the biggest bill of its kind ever signed. And it's going to make this country into a rocket ship. It's going to be ridiculous.
Earlier, the International Monetary Fund has warned that President Trump's tax bill could make it more difficult to reduce the U.S. fiscal deficit and national debt in the coming years. Also speaking at a news briefing in Washington, IMF spokeswoman Julie Kozak said the proposed legislation appears to run counter to efforts aimed at curbing federal debt over the medium term. Kozak emphasized that initiating deficit reduction sooner would allow for a more gradual and manageable path towards fiscal sustainability. Well, President Donald Trump said that he is planning to start sending letters informing trading partners of their tariff rates as soon as Friday, as negotiations to avoid higher U.S. levies enter the final stretch. Well, his comments come days before steeper duties are set to take effect on dozens of economies customized to each of them, ranging from Taiwan to the European Union. These tariffs were part of a broader announcement in April, where Trump imposed a 10% duty on goods from almost all trading partners, with a plan to step up these rates for a select group within days. But he swiftly paused the hikes until July 9th, allowing for trade talks to take place. U.S. officials have signaled that there could be a flurry of trade pacts announced in the coming days.
You know, my inclination is to send a letter out and saying what tariff they're going to be paying. It's just much easier. We have, you know, far more than 170 countries. And how many deals can you make? And you can make good deals, but they're very much more complicated. I'd rather, and I've been like this from the beginning, I'd rather send out a letter saying this is what you're going to pay to.
Meanwhile, Wall Street stock indices finished at fresh records on Thursday following solid U.S. jobs data as President Donald Trump's sweeping budget bill successfully reached the congressional finish line. Well, the S&P 500 and NASDAQ closed at record highs, notching a third week of gains. The Dow closed up 0.77%, only 0.41% away from its own record. Chipmaker Nvidia rose 1.3%, putting its market capitalization at $3.89 trillion. And the company is close to overtaking Apple's all-time record and becoming the world's most valuable company in history. Also, the U.S. economy added 147,000 jobs in June, while unemployment dipped to 4.1% from 4.2%, a sign of U.S. labor market resilience despite the White House's wave of tariffs. And U.S. President Donald Trump said that no progress was made with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin as the two leaders discussed the Russia-Ukraine conflict in an hour-long telephonic call on Thursday. Trump's grim assessment came as U.S.-led peace talks on ending the more than three-year-old conflict have stalled and after Washington paused some weapons shipments to Kyiv. Whereas the Kremlin said that Putin had insisted he would not give up on Russia's goals, specifically eliminating the root causes of the current situation. Moreover, Trump has shown increasing frustration with Putin after an early pivot towards the Russian leader. In recent weeks, he knocked back Putin's offer to mediate in the Iran-Israel conflict, telling him to focus on their home conflict instead. As per the reports, Trump and Zelensky are also likely to hold talks on Friday.
We had a call. It was a pretty long call. We talked about a lot of things, including Iran. And we also talked about, as you know, the war with Ukraine. And I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy. No, I didn't make any progress with them today at all.
Well, the US-backed proposal for a 60-day ceasefire between Israel and Hamas envisages a phased release of hostages, Israeli troop withdrawals from parts of Gaza, and discussions on ending the conflict. Well, the plan is subject to approval by both parties involved in the conflict. U.S., Qatari and Egyptian mediators have been working to secure agreement. We have some details from sources that are being worked out. And moving on, over 300 firefighters battled a massive blaze on Thursday in California as the state braces for a difficult wildfire season. The Madre fire broke out the previous day in San Luis Obispo, a rural county in the heart of the state. Around 200 people were ordered to evacuate, with dozens of buildings threatened by the flames. The region is facing its largest wildfire so far this year, amid federal cuts to agencies responsible for combating climate disasters. Well, as the wildfires rage near Athens, Greece's firefighters used planes to dump water over the flames. Thousands of people have been evacuated from southern Greek island of Crete. And now we get you visuals from Trinidad and Tobago, where Prime Minister Modi and PM of Trinidad and Tobago are exchanging gifts. Prime Minister on his second leg of a visit to Trinidad and Tobago. Earlier, Prime Minister also addressed the diaspora at the community event of the Port of Spain, the capital of Trinidad and Tobago. Prime Minister Modi also praised the diaspora, saying that he feels that we are part of one family. Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago exchanging gifts out there. And on the second leg of his five-nation visit, Prime Minister Modi addressed the diaspora at the community event at Port of Spain earlier, the capital of Trinidad and Tobago. And Prime Minister Modi praised the diaspora, that he feels that we were part of one family. Prime Minister Modi also further termed the Indian community of Trinidad and Tobago as not migrants, but messengers of a timeless civilization. Prime Minister Modi, while addressing the diaspora, also said that he brought something there with a similar sense of devotion, and that was a replica of Ram Temple and also water from the Saryu River. And Prime Minister Modi also said that India had launched initiatives to map the cities from where ancestors migrated, and regular Girmitia conferences will be held. Prime Minister Modi also announced that OCI cards will be extended to the 6th generation of Girmitia temple people in Trinidad and Tobago. Prime Minister Modi said that OCI cards to be given to the 6th generation of Indians in Trinidad and Tobago. And he said that Indian diaspora was our pride. Addressing the Indian community after his arrival in Trinidad and Tobago, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that he was aware of the deep faith in Lord Rama. Prime Minister Modi also said, and I quote, that I'm sure that all of you welcome the return of Lord Ram Lalla to Ayodhya after 500 years. And you had sent holy water and Shila for building the Ram Mandir in Ayodhya. I've also brought something here with a similar sense of devotion. It is my honor to bring a replica of Ram Mandir and some water from the holy Saryu. Unquote, Prime Minister Modi said while addressing the diaspora and calling the Indian diaspora our pride. Prime Minister Modi said the community is an ambassador of India's values and heritage. Prime Minister Modi also said that children of Girmitias are not defined by struggle anymore, but by success, service and values. Earlier, Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in the Port of Spain on a state visit to the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the second leg of his visit, and in a special gesture, Prime Minister was received by Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Kamla Prasad Bharati, along with members of her cabinet and several other dignitaries at the airport. 38 ministers and 4 lawmakers were present at the airport to receive Prime Minister Modi. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Kurana from Wildfires in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.